there's really three kinds of clients that we're seeing start to get on the network today. You've got the guest access client. You've got the employee-owned BYOD that's, the sliced bread kind of thing today. And then you've got the company-owned whatever device it is. And we see all three of those coming in. One of the hospitals I used to work with, they actually, they freaked out when they released the iPad because in a matter of a week, about 12 iPads popped on their network. One doctor bought it, and then the other doctor saw it. It's like bing, 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 bing. They actually went out and says, you can't use iPads on our network. We're going to buy them and give them to you. That way we control them. Well, for a hospital, they can probably do that, especially a teaching hospital like this was. They have some money. A lot of places can't afford to do that. And they're not going to do that, and it's changed. So we've got to be able to have a way to control, number one, how users, employees, guests get on the network, do it securely, and do it easily. That's the key. How do we do this easily? And there's some things that Tim's going to show us with a product that we have called SmartPass on how we do some of those features. So Tim, I'll let you, since we're running short, let's just get right into that.
Sure, yeah. So I busted up Bruce's intro. But when we look at users accessing the network, we tend to bucketize them sort of into three general categories. So we've got kind of our classic guest users. So these are transient users that are in our facility for for hours, for days, that have no real affiliation with the organization. So kind of the classic guest user. We have kind of the what most of the industry calls BYOD. So this is somebody who went out to the Apple store, bought their iPad, brings it into work. So it's an employee, but they're not running sort of a corporate issued device. So I trust the user, but I don't necessarily trust the platform. I need to get them on the network securely and easily because they need to get their work done. But I need to treat them slightly differently from from sort of a holistic security standpoint because it's not one of my devices. And then our third category is sort of the classic corporate-owned asset. So the kinds of things where I know the user, I issued the hardware, I presumably have a persistent security footprint on the device, so I know what it's doing. I can manage it that way. So the Juniper portfolio covers covers all three of those. We'll do sort of the guest case first. So Bruce talked about the SmartPass application, which was originally conceived for guest management. It evolved to to handle some other user management tasks within the WL solution. So what we'll see right here. So we're connected to our guest network. This is for for a guest user. So somebody shows up at our network, like you, for instance. How do we get you on the network for the duration of your visit? So we connect. So it's sort of the standard captive portal experience that everybody's familiar with. One of the things that we want to do, one of the capabilities of SmartPass that we like is this idea of guest self-registration. So users can go ahead and create their own accounts. We deliver these temporary credentials via SMS. So say as you enter your mobile phone number, your credentials get texted to you. You use those credentials to access the network. Not strictly necessary.
What's internal inside your controllers?
So this is SmartPass. So sorry, SmartPass is a piece of software that is not inside the controllers. This is a standalone application.
And how is it connecting to the phone system?
So the WLCs, the WLAs are captive portaling sessions that come in, and we're sort of external captive portal support. We're redirecting to the SmartPass application.
And then the SmartPass application is running on some blade or VM somewhere.
Yep. So
how is it talking to the phone system?
To send the SMS messages.
Yep. So we use we integrate with just SMS bulk providers. So you have an account with Click-a-Tell. You put in a phone number and the message goes out.
And by the way, the application, the SmartPass software, we have it in hardware and software. The basic one comes with 50 user accounts, and it's $1,400 list price. We try to keep the cost very reasonable.
You can see that, but yeah, message was delivered. You guys can try this. Feel free. It's Juniper Guest Access. We'll connect you to this little infrastructure. So we use the credentials that came down. Now, when we generally, when we talk about these three different types of users, it's more than just kind of the wireless access piece. There's a bigger security story that gets wrapped around this. So we now have a guest user on the system. How does the WL series work with the policy engine to enforce consistent security on the EX on the switch infrastructure, on our routed infrastructure, to basically to control what our guests are allowed to do. So our guest users, for instance, in this somewhat contrived example, we're taking advantage of application awareness capabilities of the SRX platform. So the use case is we allow our guest users to do whatever they want on the web. Somebody's sitting in the lobby, they can surf all day. What we want to avoid is people doing sort of bandwidth-intensive applications that will impact our regular users. We don't want people guest users chewing up bandwidth on unnecessary things. So to that effect, we can use the app secure capabilities of SRX. So we allow users to say get to the internet, they can get to YouTube. But once somebody tries to say download the electric slide video, the SRX is going to step in and through the app secure feature set, we identify this as an HTTP, the HTTP flow, which is okay. We look deeper into the application, so it's sort of nested application awareness. So we see that this is a YouTube video feed, and we actually block that piece of it. So we're taking advantage of capabilities in the broader Juniper portfolio to kind of extend capabilities on the wireless LAN side to do things like sort of deeper level inspection of application traffic.
Is there any user feedback other than the spinning circle of death?
Unfortunately, on the video feed, there's not really an easy way for an SRX to inject in a you've been blocked video. But for things like block URL sites, you have the customized message that says the site's forbidden or whatever's appropriate.
How does that work with HTTPS?
So in the App Secure suite, there's forward and reverse proxy capabilities in the platform that allow the App Secure engine to look into the traffic flows.
So you do have to proxy?
Yeah, you have to proxy it. So
As you see, it's part of a bigger system. It's not just wireless with software bolted onto it. It's tying into our SRX, our EX, and we're doing it through some of the standard protocols like IF mapping to share information about a user across the IF map capable devices.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I mentioned that the capabilities of the SmartPass system sort of extend beyond kind of basic guest authentication. One of the things that it does is when SmartPass authenticated that user, so it's a guest management system which is independent of the policy engine. It authenticates the user and publishes via IFMap a sort of a complete record of this user along with role assignment, passes all of that to the central policy engine, which can then enforce that policy on all of the other nodes in the Juniper system.
We got one more demo, right?
Yep. So kind of our second category is employees on their own personally owned devices. So we'll go, oops, back to our same captive portal site. So the general idea being users are familiar with how captive portals work. People are comfortable with this, so we're going to drive users to do the same thing. So user comes in with their device. We provide them kind of a launching off point that's different than guest users. So we'll follow our corporate link. This is going to take us to the provisioning portal. So the idea here is I have user credentials. I'm a valid user. How do I get my device provisioned for wireless and attached to the network? In this particular case, so for mobile devices, the onboarding experience we feel it makes a lot of sense to start using TLS with device-based certs. So I have my credentials, so I'm acquiring a certificate for my device. So the cert is bound to my identity, but is a unique, distinct thing, so that in the event that this device gets lost or stolen, IT can just invalidate the device cert without necessarily impacting my general credential, which would, if I was traveling, would impact my ability to say to VPNA. So it's, you get a lot more control over specifically which devices are allowed to have access to the network. So we follow the step here. First step, we need our Active Directory credentials. Oops. Super secret password. Know what's happening on the back end while we're doing this. The provisioning server is communicating with the Windows certificate infrastructure, using my credentials, authenticates me, uses my credentials to acquire device cert, pulls that back to the provisioning server, bundles that with the wireless settings that I need to get on the network, and then pushes that down to my device. So I get my profile here. If we look at it, this is everything that's included. So, so if you think about a secure .1x authentication, I need my device cert, I need server certs, I need my wireless settings. All of that is wrapped into sort of one spot. So we'll go ahead and install that. It is a cert, so it wants my password to unwrap it. And we go back to wireless, connect to the secure network, and we do an ETLS authentication, we're on the network. In a second. So Bruce talked about how SmartPass authenticates guests and how IFMap plays into this. So our user authentication that we did against the policy engine, so it's standard .1x. There's actually no layer 3 visibility that happens in there. So the WL coordinates with SmartPass, which coordinates with the policy engine, sharing information via IFMap. So the policy engine now has a complete picture of my identity, and then it, similar to how we saw with the guests, it pushes that information out to other enforcement points into the network. So the EXs, the SRXs, you can do individual role-based sort of application-aware enforcement of access. So I'm on here. I will. So we've got our internet access. Things like internal resources. So again, is all enforced at the SRX. I'll probably be out of time, so I'll cut my demo there, I think. Okay. Questions on the onboarding piece? So one of the things that this demo moves through, kind of this captive portal, sort of, kind of common experience for the different types of users, taking advantage of, other features that we have available in the box. There are other onboarding methodologies that make sense. So some customers want to do sort of a single SSID type of onboarding experience that can be delivered using the same infrastructure. It means that you've got, credentials are intermittently passing around different devices. So we tend to, the example that we tend to promote is, sort of the common captive portal as the single jumping off point for sending stuff. Questions, comments?
All right, Tamir, you want to wrap us up here?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Tim and Bruce. I think we're just about out of time, so I want to thank all of you for joining us. This concludes the broadcast portion. We are going to take some questions in the last few minutes. So until then, thank you all for being here, and thank everyone online who's been watching us live stream. And I hope we get the chance to do this again sometime.